Hey there, friends. John Popola here, and welcome back to Dad Saves America if you are a returning visitor. And if you are a returning visitor or here for the first time, there's something that you do or should know, and that is that this dad cares a lot about education, about our schools, what's happening in them, what's happening to our kids, and why, and what can we do about it. I have put my son in a lot of different schools, and I have learned several things along the way and am still learning. And so this Friday, starting shortly, and for the next several Fridays to come, I'm going to be exploring what is happening in our schools and why it got this way and how. The history of, let's say, the poisoning of the American mind. And I hope you'll stay with me through this journey because it's really, really important. Our kids spend most of their waking hours in school. And so this is a choice that matters a lot. And with that, let's take a look inside the poisoning of the American mind.
Nearly 2 years of turmoil in education.
Stress, social media, and the pandemic.
There's growing concern that remote learning is not making the grade as a shocking number of children fall behind.
Governor Newsom has signed a law that requires gender-neutral bathrooms in all public schools.
There are children in our schools that are dressing as animals. There are things like dog leashes and collars.
The last 5 years have awakened many of us as parents to the fact that our school systems are profoundly broken. They are places too often possessed by fringe ideas, falling standards, and failing students. They are poisoning young American minds.
Anti-boomer, anti-poor, Charles Murray, no more.
While radical college professors and campus protests have sucked up all the oxygen in our national media,
You have created space for violence.
I disagree with that.
You are disgusting. Be quiet.
the underlying causes of young people's increasingly infantile behavior, from classrooms to corporate HR departments, goes much deeper and starts much earlier than most of us realize. The poisoning can start as early as preschool and is all but complete before they graduate in the spring of their senior year of high school. By some estimates, our kids are entering college 3 or more years behind in emotional maturity than prior generations. But that's being too kind to our recent past, and frankly, to ourselves. Consider the age of America's founding fathers at the time of our Declaration of Independence 250 years ago. Alexander Hamilton, star of Broadway and champion of our first national bank, was 21. James Madison, father of the Constitution of the United States, was 25. Thomas Jefferson was practically ancient at 33 when he wrote the Declaration of Independence. All of these men were not just mature, but deeply steeped in classical literature and history. Speaking of history, let's go even further back to 1428. Joan of Arc, the savior of France, led the siege of Orleans at just 16 years old.
Follow me!
How can this be possible? Well, don't forget that 13 has long been treated in our most ancient traditions and religious rituals as the coming of age moment. And there's a reason for it, called biology. I'm reminded of this powerful meme that, frankly, almost brings me to tears every time I go through it. A father in China took photos with his son from birth through to adulthood. Now, pay close attention. Here we go. Birth, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, get ready. 11, 12, 13. Crazy. 11. He's still a little boy. Round face, held in his father's arms. 2 years later, he's a man! And basically, he looks more or less the same from there. I watched this with my son. We all watch it. It's reality. It's also the reason why middle school is completely nuts for our kids. Mateo called it the Hunger Games.
May the odds be ever in your favor.
And the changes that take place during this time are very challenging. That's why it's at this moment where we celebrate Catholic confirmation, Jewish bar and bat mitzvah. The Brazilian tribe of Sadarmaua have their rituals. The Amish celebrate Rumspringa. Even in Kenya, the Maasai, and a long, long list of rites of passage all around the world all happen at this age. Hamilton, Madison, Joan of Arc. These were extraordinary people, but they were people, just like us and our kids. No, not kids. They were adults in their time. Now, compare this history to our present moment when, according to a recent large-scale survey, 1 in 4 Gen Zers took their parents to their job interviews. 1 in 4. These are 20-somethings. What have we become here? What has happened to the process of maturation in this country and around the wealthy, so-called weird world? Think of the human potential and the years of accomplishment and contribution being lost to so-called extended adolescence. Our forebears didn't even bother with good old 1990s adolescence. They got right on with building our world ASAP. Well, we are failing our kids, and they are failing themselves in many ways. Helicopter parenting strips them of agency. Social media kills their attention span, arrests proper socialization, and destabilizes their identity. Over-medicalization of every personality quirk has pumped them full of mind-altering and numbing drugs. And of course, radical woke ideology celebrates infantile victimhood as a virtue. All of these things are sources of the problem, but there is no single source more profoundly at fault for our kids' failing path to functional, flourishing adulthood than the place where close to 85% of them spend a large chunk of every single weekday. The main source of America's mind poison. I'm talking about our standardized, government-run public schools. There was no public school experience for Thomas Jefferson or Joan of Arc. Massachusetts, the birthplace of America's public school system, already had 99% literacy before compulsory schooling, a rate that has since gone down. Public school did not build Western civilization, but it does threaten to destroy it. It's time for all of us to take a hard look in the mirror and a hard look at the monstrosity we call an American education system. I promise you will not like what you see, and we'll be forced to ask hard questions about what we owe our kids and what we're doing to them. I've been asking myself these very questions for the past 15 years. My wife and I just put our son on a plane to start his first year of college in Rome, Italy. And the primary reason is the Italy experience, far more than the college academic part of the experience from our perspective. You see, this unorthodox choice feels completely natural to us, but that's only because we've walked a pretty unorthodox path together with him in his education since kindergarten. He started off in Montessori preschool, then Catholic kindergarten, then a Waldorf school, then back to Montessori school again, and then to Acton Academy, a kind of K-12 Montessori on steroids, and finally back to Catholic school for senior year, largely to play basketball and firm up his Catholic sacraments. We haven't tried them all, but we have tried a lot of different styles of school for our son. And at each stage, the choice was driven by a simple question that each of us as parents ask ourselves every single day. How do we set our children up to succeed? How do we set them up to thrive as adults in this rapidly changing world and ultimately survive long after we're gone? That's what our job is as parents, to raise capable, independent adults. They might not become Joan of Arc or Thomas Jefferson, but they sure as hell should be capable of interviewing for a job on their own without mom and dad by their side to ask follow-up questions about the company's 401k and PTO policy. Frankly, too many of us are afraid to question our core assumptions and think clearly about our own formative experiences when it comes to deciding on the place that will consume more of our kids' time than anything else, their school. The first impediment we have to overcome is what we think we know about our own education, what we think we got out of school ourselves. I think for a lot of us, there's a romance, and that romance goes something like this. Hey, I turned out fine, I went to normal public school, and now I'm a functioning normal person. So what's the problem exactly? The problem is we've bundled a collection of experiences together under the umbrella of school that are actually very different and often unrelated. Yes, there's the academics, but then there's the social experiences, the relationships, the sports, the clubs, the passion projects and personal hobbies. With the distance of time, we look back with selective, rose-colored glasses at all these distinct experiences and lump them all together as the school experience. But the academics part, which is over here, is not what most of us are thinking about when we say, I turned out okay. We're mostly talking about all this other stuff. And the truth is, most of what we actually learned and retained came out of our extracurricular life and the experiences in school that no standardized test could ever capture. But my challenge to you goes deeper than suspending this very common personal bias. Look back to the maturity and capability that young people throughout human history have demonstrated and open your mind to the possibility that everything we think we know about what school should be and what it has become is dead wrong. Consider the possibility that the failures of our standard public school system aren't failures at all. Imagine that the system was not designed for the purposes of fostering critical thinking and unlocking human potential. Instead, be open to the possibility our school system might indeed be working, much to our detriment, exactly as intended. A system for poisoning the American mind. Well, we're just getting started. So next Friday, we are going to be digging in deep to the history of public school in America and how this all got started, because most of us don't realize just what was motivating those origins. And then, of course, the worst of them all got locked in place by public sector teachers unions who are committed to, if nothing else, never letting any change happen at all. And then, can't talk about education without talking about the kind of identity politics and woke gobbledygook, the communism that has been thrust upon our kids, and what we as parents can and should do about it. The solutions, and that is with a plural S, because there is not one answer to this question of how to avoid our kids from being poisoned. So, if you don't want to miss these videos as they come out every Friday for the next several weeks, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you aren't already, and come back next Friday. And if you want some more reading materials to dig in while you wait, head over to dadssavesamerica.com and check out all the resources we've got over there. It is a treasure trove. And of course, have a great weekend.